Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back once again to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, sponsored today by Audible. Start listening with a free 30-day Audible trial, and you can get full access to thousands and thousands of all-you-can-listen audiobooks, original entertainment and podcasts included in the Plus catalogue. Just visit audible.com/jingles or text jingles to 500 500. Now, normally when I give you one of these audiobook recommendations, it's non-fiction, usually military history, because let's face it, that's kind of what I'm known for. But recently a number of you have been asking for any fiction recommendations, and I do like me a bit of science fiction, particularly hard science fiction that makes you think. And there are some astonishingly good science fiction novelists out there who fit that criteria. Alastair Reynolds, David Brin, Peter F. Hamilton, Kim Stanley Robinson. But if I'm going to recommend one place to start, it would have to be the late great Scottish science fiction novelist Iain M. Banks. And if you're going to start reading Iain Banks, you probably shouldn't start with his first novel in the Culture series, Consider Phlebas, because while it is by no means a bad book, it is considered by most to be his worst book. Nevertheless, I'm going to mention it here just for the sake of completeness, but if you're going to start, you should probably start with his second book in the Culture series, The Player of Games. A story in which the Culture, a notoriously pacifist society, sends its greatest game player to the Empire of Azad, a notoriously aggressive society, to have a go at their game. A game so complex, so fabulous, so difficult that the person who wins it becomes their emperor. Iain M. Banks, The Player of Games, which you can pick up with your free Audible monthly credit, as well as listening to thousands and thousands of all-you-can-listen audiobooks, original entertainment, and podcasts by simply visiting audible.com/jingles or text jingles to 500 500. Hope you all enjoy it, and now, on with the show. This is Venathor in an all Tier 5 standard battle on the ring map. He is in the Kamikaze. It's a Tier 5 premium Japanese destroyer, identical to the Kamikaze R, obviously, but also the Fujin, and very, very similar to the Minakaze, the Tech Tree Japanese destroyer. Except, as you'd expect of a premium ship in World of Warships, it's better than the Minakaze in almost every respect, except the one that doesn't matter, anti-aircraft firepower. Don't worry, you're not actually missing out on anything. The Minakaze's anti-aircraft firepower is terrible. The fact that the Kamikaze's is worse doesn't really make any difference. As for where the Kamikaze is better than the Tech Tree equivalent, well, let us just list the ways. Better turret traverse, more health, faster torpedoes that deal more damage, 3 turrets that turn frontally compared to 2 on the Minakaze. And these torpedoes are pretty potent. They have a speed of 68 knots and a range of 6 kilometers, and since the Kamikaze's base detection range is only 6.2 kilometers, yes, you can stealth torpedo in the Kamikaze. The downside to the torpedoes is that while individually they'll do up to 14,400 damage, she does not get a lot of them. She's equipped with only 3 twin launchers, but since the base reload is only 47 seconds, it doesn't really matter. Oh, that's not good. Enemy Mutsuki just popped up at 5.3 kilometers and spotted him, and the Celebes and Koenig over there are likely to take an interest. If you can get to 5.4 kilometers without shooting, you'll be able to disengage. There we go. Nice and easy. But yeah, that 47-second base reload on the torpedoes essentially means that if you're targeting an enemy ship at maximum range, 7 kilometers, pretty much every time before your victim has even spotted the first set of torpedoes, you're going to be reloaded and ready to go again. Quick word about the guns though. While the turrets do have a faster traverse than the Minakaze, that in no way means they actually have a good traverse. It will still take you 25 seconds to rotate the turrets a full 180 degrees. And while the high explosive shells do pack a fairly considerable punch, each shot will do up to 2,000 damage. You still don't want to be getting into any gunfights if you can possibly avoid it, because the ship only has 4 guns, and each of those guns has a 10-second reload. An American or Russian destroyer, this is not. So try to avoid gunfights unless you know you're going to win. The Kamikaze is very much a torpedo destroyer rather than a gunboat. And watching torpedo destroyer replays can often be kind of boring because they launch their torpedoes and then you sit around for 2 minutes waiting for them to launch their torpedoes again. But with a 47-second reload, that's not going to happen in the Kamikaze. Just to put it into perspective, the Kamikaze reloads its torpedo tubes only 7 seconds slower than the Tier 10 US Navy battleship, the Vermont, loads its guns. So, yeah, just let that one sink in. I mean, I don't know if that says that the Vermont has an incredibly slow main battery gun reload, and it kind of does, but the Kamikaze definitely doesn't hang around when it comes to reloading its torpedo tubes either. It's also pretty quick. I mean, it's no speed demon, we're not talking French or Russian destroyers here, but it's not afflicted by the thoroughly pedestrian 35-knot top speed that so many of the American and British destroyers are saddled with. It'll do 37.5 knots, obviously, more with the speed flag. Under the right circumstances, with the right skills, it can be approaching a 40-knot top speed, which can be very, very handy, particularly for ships that have such low detection, like the Kamikaze. This is an often overlooked problem on the more sneaky destroyers that don't have a decent speed. Ooh, that was a nasty hit. If you have, for example, 5.4 kilometers surface detection, as Venator does here in the Kamikaze, and you get spotted, you're 5.4 kilometers away from something that wants to shoot you. And if you're one of those destroyers that only has a 35-knot top speed and your smoke's on cooldown, or even worse, you're Swedish and you don't have any smoke, you're going to be in shooting range for quite some time until you can disengage. Assuming you even can disengage in the first place, because it's likely that you're now being pursued by an enemy destroyer that's faster than you are. Speed isn't just all about getting to the nearest cap circle at the beginning of the match as quickly as possible so you can be the first one in your team to die because you're not fast enough to disengage once you get there and you get spotted. Speaking of getting spotted, that enemy Matsuki is proven to be remarkably effective. I mean, he probably hasn't done any damage either, but well, there's a whole bunch of juicy battleships and cruisers back there that Venator would love to be torpedoing, and that Matsuki keeps cock-blocking him at every possible opportunity. And despite Venator's begging in chat, nobody, well, almost nobody, appears to be concerned that enemy destroyers have been spotted. And I do say destroyers, because there's an Acaster over there as well. Let us hope that they don't understand that smokescreens are torpedo magnets. First set expired, second set expired, third set expired. Well, they're either deeper in the smokescreen than we like, or they do understand that smokescreens are torpedo magnets. Either way, that's bad news. However, the torpedoes are ready to go again. Remember, kids, 47-second reload. Also remember, that's just the base reload. Factor in skills like Adrenaline Rush and fill the tubes, and you can probably get that down to less than 40 seconds. Either way, it's like a machine gun, except it fires torpedoes. And there's the Acaster. Now, there are a couple of things that are worth pointing out here. First and foremost, Venator's team keeps dying. They've lost their 5th ship, they've only managed to sink 2. Secondly, despite begging for assistance, and despite the fact that he has 5 spotted medals so far, his team between them only managed to do 13,000 damage to the ships that he's been spotting. And it's basically just his torpedoes, or the threat of those torpedoes, that is preventing that lot from overrunning his cap. Well, I say his cap. Effectively, I mean his base, because this is standard battle, not domination. Now, at the moment, there's a friendly Nicholas attempting to sneak into the enemy base down to the southwest. He has, however, attracted the unwelcome attention of an Italian cruiser. But look at where the rest of the team are. All 6 surviving enemy ships are all the way down there to the south. Just hold that thought for a while we see what happens to these torpedoes, because it looks like Venator is about to get his first kill. Yes, finally, about time. Anyway, back to the situation down to the south. Every other single ship on Venator's team are all sharing the same postcode down to the south, while Venator is pretty much single-handedly trying to prevent his team from losing the game by defending this cap alone. Now, the Nicholas has just been chased out of the enemy base by the Monticaccioli. The Monticaccioli is, of course, completely tunnel visioning in on the American destroyer and is sailing straight to his doom, but that's not really what's important right now, because look at where the rest of Venator's team are, as Venator continues to defend the base, and the rest of the team not only completely ignore him, but one of the battleships down to the south has the massive brass balls not only to ignore the fact that the base is being capped, but to request Venator's assistance down south. Are you on crack or something? Can you not look at the map? This shows a lack of situational awareness to a degree that I honestly just find hard to comprehend. Oh, but Jingles, maybe he's not asking Venathor to abandon the base and come down and support him. Maybe he's asking the other 4 ships with him to support him. Support him with what? Not capping the enemy base? Refusing to defend his own base that has 2 enemy ships in it? I appreciate your point, but that doesn't actually make things better. Speaking of not making things better, Venathor's just gotten spotted again. It's that pesky Mutsuki. Oh, not enough to kill him, but it does cause a flood. How quick is he on the damage control? Damn it, too quick. Venathor, I think you might have to use your guns. Actually, I know you're going to have to use your guns, because you're getting 0 assistance from the rest of your team. And that took the Mutsuki out. Unfortunately, because the guns on the Kamikaze are as bad as they are, with a range of only 8.7 kilometers, once the Mutsuki was dead, there was nobody within 8.7 kilometers to continue spotting him. Which means the Chungking over there saw nothing. Actually, there's another spot of good news. The Chungking isn't interested in winning the game. He sailed right through the cap circle. And here's some more good news. The Chungking is really the only one in a position to spot Venathor if he gets close enough, which is what he's going to want to do, to start torpedoing the ships that are trying to win the game and sitting in the cap circle. Like the Celebes over there, who's probably about to be joined by another enemy ship. But not the Chungking. Fortunately, the Chungking just shit his pearly pink panties after receiving a smattering of fire from the south and immediately smoked up, which means he's not spotting anybody. Which means that Venathor can get, well, as close as he likes really, as long as he doesn't get within 2 kilometers, torpedo the smoke screen, and then continue to sneak up on the other enemy ships while not being spotted by the Chungking. And of course, because of the ridiculously fast reload on the Kamikaze's torpedoes, he's going to be able to do it all again within the next 20 seconds, which is going to be spectacularly bad news for somebody. Let's see if those torpedoes find anything in the smoke screen. The Chungking is still in there. Yep, got him. Remember, kids, smoke screens are torpedo magnets. So the Celebes took a hit, and I don't think he wants to leave that cap circle, but as long as Venathor continues to spot him, he's going to continue to take hits, and the Piotr Veliki, of course, is also sneaking up. So it looks like the Celebes is trying to get out of spotting range. I'm not sure he realises, although he probably does by now, that it's actually Venathor who's oh, hang on a second, it's only going to take 1 torpedo, isn't it? Honestly, I think the Celebes' best plan there, and there he goes, I mean, too little too late, but his best plan would have been to continue south and then turn west and hide in between the gap in those 2 islands over there, something that I think the Piotr Veliki, after seeing what happened to the Chungking and the Celebes, is probably thinking about doing right now. And the Piotr Veliki is not a bad ship. In fact, it's reasonably fast by the standards of Tier 5 battleships that aren't Japanese. It will do 26, 27 knots, something like that. But it doesn't do 37.5 knots like the Kamikaze, and it definitely doesn't do 68 knots like the Kamikaze's torpedoes. And the Piotr Veliki is still heading south. 7-kilometer torpedo range. And yet, I mean, the captain of that Piotr Veliki, I honestly can't make my mind up whether he's an utter noob who just gets incredibly lucky, or he's way, way smarter than I'm giving him credit for. Because he did just watch his 2 teammates ahead of him get torpedoed by a destroyer lurking over in this direction, and he is not changing his course, but he is adjusting his speed. Now, I don't know if that's because he's trying to jink the torpedoes, and if that's the case, then well done. It's proven to be remarkably effective. But it could also be that he just doesn't want to get any closer than is absolutely necessary to the 2 battleships down to the south. Sorry, the 1 battleship down to the south. Texas. Oh no, they're all dying now. There's no reason why he couldn't be doing both, in which case he is doing way, way better than I've been giving him credit for. Because Venathor's just having to waste torpedo after torpedo after torpedo on him, and none of them are hitting. But the rest of Venathor's team are doing absolutely everything possibly wrong. Stick together for mutual firepower? Nope, don't nobody have any time for that. Did you just lose 90% of your health to a Russian battleship's AP, like the Koenig down there, because you're given a big fat broadside for him to shoot at? Maybe turn in an angle. Nah, ain't nobody got time for that either, says the Koenig. I'll just continue to show broadside, never mind the fact that it just cost me 90% of my health. It'll be fine this time. I mean, yes, I am continuing to show broadside to a battleship, firing 14-inch armour-piercing shells at me at a range of 5 or 6 kilometres and sailing in front of an island instead of taking cover behind it, but what's the worst that could happen? Well, the second that Piotr Veliki reloads, and it does have a fairly slow reload, I think it's about 33 seconds, the Koenig is about to find out. And as quickly as that, Venator is down to one surviving teammate, the October Revolution. And the Piotr Veliki has sneaked back into the cap circle. I guess he does like to hedge his bets. But if he continues to reverse, at some point... Oh, and the October Revolution's managed to sink somebody. Well done, that man. I don't fancy his chances, though. I mean, I don't want to belittle his contribution, but he's gone from having 4 ships shooting at him to only having 3 ships shooting at him. And if the Piotr Veliki inches forward, he's not only going to dodge those torpedoes, but he's also going to be able to start shooting. No, he's still reversing. Is this going to be 2? It's 2. Is it going to be 3? It's 3. Is it going to be 4? Oh, the 4th one would have sunk him. Well, maybe not. Each torpedo will do up to 14,400 damage, which is a lot for a Tier 5 destroyer, but you also have to take into account the target's torpedo damage reduction, and it is a battleship. And I don't actually know how much torpedo damage reduction the Piotr Veliki has. I mean, I haven't memorised every single stat about every single ship in the game, but it's a battleship, so if it's at least 20%, the 4th torpedo probably wouldn't have sunk him. And that's going to be critical. And there goes the October Revolution. Okay. On the one hand, there's the Kraken Unleashed. Which means that Venator is not the last ship left on his team against 4 enemies. But he is the last ship left alive on his team against 3 enemies. And they're all on the other side of the map. And that's the big problem right now, because the enemy team are still 300 points ahead, and there's only 3 minutes of this game remaining. And with that kind of points difference, well, there isn't enough time for him to get down to the enemy base and cap it out, and he would never be able to do that anyway because he'd have to sail through the enemy ships. He's going to have to sink all 3 of them. Sinking just 2 of them is not going to be enough. So now you have to ask yourself this question. There are 3 battleships left alive on the enemy team, a Koenig, a New York, and a Julio Cesare. The only way Venator can win is if he sinks all 3 of them, and he doesn't have much time to do it. Just exactly how stupid do those 3 battleships need to be to not simply take their 300-point lead and win, and instead come steaming up north in order to fight a destroyer with a 5.4 kilometre surface detection range and torpedoes that reload every 40 seconds. Now, if you think nobody could possibly be that stupid, you clearly haven't been playing World of Warships recently. There's 1 spotted, there's 2, and the 3rd, the closest one, you can see the RPF indicator showing him on the other side of the island. All 3 of them have come up to try to catch a destroyer who's going to see them coming 8 kilometres before any of them sees him. Yep, that's actually their plan. The thing is, there's so little time left, even with the lightning fast torpedo reload, even with the enemy team falling over themselves in order to accommodate his need to sink all 3 of them in order to win. He only has a minute and a half to do it. And his torpedoes do reload fast. I'm just not sure they're going to reload fast enough. And to be completely fair to those 3 battleship captains, they're not actually charging all the way up here in order to find and kill him. It looks like they're trying... Well, one of them is, the New York down there. The other 2 look like they're falling back to try to defend their cap circle. But still, this is a big ask. Although that Koenig would have done well to vary his course and speed, at least even slightly, as the Piotr Veliki did earlier. Now, whether the Piotr Veliki did it because he was trying to dodge torpedoes or just because he didn't want to get any closer to the battleships that he was farming, his avoidance of all of those torpedoes that Venator launched earlier could be critical, because it took him something like 4 launches before he finally sank that Russian battleship. And now, as Venator gets his 2nd launch off, I'm looking at the timer and I'm looking at the torpedo reload, and the torpedo reload is longer than the amount of time remaining in this game. So unless he can take out both of those ships, the Julio Cesare, who's out of range and knows what's good for him and is heading south, and the New York, who is in range and doesn't know what's good for him and is continuing to sail north, there's not much chance that Venator is actually going to be able to win this. I mean, the New York is doing everything he possibly can to ensure that Venator does win, but as the timer runs down, and there's the New York, and kill number 7, and the Confederate award to go with the Kraken. But the Julio Cesare, who was actually capable of thinking and breathing at the same time, and the Piotr Veliki earlier, who managed to dodge an absurd number of torpedoes, who between them have ensured that not even 2 devastating strikes, a Kraken Unleashed, high caliber, Confederate and 7 kills were going to be enough for Venator to drag this team kicking and screaming over the finish line and ensure a victory. Venator, you have my sympathies. That one is probably still going to be stinging a couple of days from now, but hey, you did all you could. It was just not to be. Everyone else, I hope you enjoyed it, because that's it for today. And as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.